Okay, good morning. So thanks to the organizer to give me the opportunity to give a talk on the status and scientific goals of the Very Large Telescope Interferometer, VLTI, and the Extremely Large Telescope, ELT, with a main mirror of 39 meters. So to give this talk on this fantastic present and future instrument, I have the help from great help, because I am not an expert of this instrument, of Bruno Lopez, which is the PI of Matisse on VLTI, and Eric Pantin, which is I would say French responsible of Métis on the ELT. So bon, this topic is very large, so it doesn't change my. Oops. It works before. Okay. Okay, and I have a lot of slides. So okay. Okay, alors on my screen it's okay. Oops. Okay. So I will focus on the instruments which are very strong interest for PCME and which will give access to spatially resolved spectroscopy in the thermal infrared domain. So Matisse, which is an imaging spectro-interferometer between 3 and 13 microns with low and medium resolution, very, very high angular resolution. And Métis, which will observe in the same wavelength range, imager, coronagraph, which will make slit spectroscopy in the medium resolution, IFU spectroscopy at very high angular resolution in the L and M bands, and very high angular resolution, first generation ELT instrument. There is also a very interesting instrument for PCME in the optical near-infrared domain, Harmony, which is an integral field, which will do integral field spectroscopy with a spectral resolution between 3,000 and 20,000, between 0.5 and 2.5 microns. In second generation instrument, IRACE, which will observe between 0.5 and 1.8 microns, and with a very high resolution, 100,000 and 150,000. And there is also a Mosaic, a multi-object spectrograph, a first generation instrument, but I will mostly focus on the spectrometer. I named before. So transition from VLT to ELT is not a change of scale. ELT is much more complex with spectacular capabilities. Wow. Maybe I don't know, it doesn't change. Huh? Yes, good. Thank you. Oops. For PCME, there is clearly a strong interest in combining high spatial and spectral resolution in a domain full of key dust features and powerful warm gas diagnostic, because it is one of the key to constrain the localization of the emission in compact objects and understand the main physical, chemical, and dynamical processes. And we'll be able to study the evolution of matter in resolved region, inaccessible today, such as inner disk, center of galaxy. And clearly, Webb and ELT instruments are fully complementary, with Webb extreme sensitivity versus very high spectro-angular resolution for ELT. Okay, I will talk first on MATISS, second generation Ford telescope VLTI spectrometer interferometer, installed in parallel in 2017, first light and commissioning in 18, and start of scientific observation in 19. So here, it's a view of aerial view of VLTE infrastructure with MATISS in the focal laboratory, a few D view of MATISS with the warm optics table, which collect and transport the beam of the Ford telescope to two cryostats, one for the LM band and one for the N band, wherein the beams are combined and produce interference fringe. Alors, MATISS will be the only spectrometer interferometer that can access the L, M, and N bands. But you can see the atmospheric window here. And with the MATISS spectral resolution, so until 3000, we will be able to study the diversity at very high angular resolution, the diversity of infrared spectral features, which for some of them are listed there. So in the L and M bands, transition from dust scattering to dust emission, aromatic aliphatic nanodiamonds, hydrogen recombination lines, CO transition lines, water lines, ice features, and in the N band also the silicate bands. Alors, MATISS combine four telescopes with baseline lengths from which will give from 10 to 150, which will give very high angular resolution down to the milli-arc second. And this will give access to a new view of different very exciting topics in a region of planet-forming disks, the study also of exoplanets, evolved stars and their circumstellar environment, close environment of massive stars and cluster formation, and central region of active galaxies. And here you have below in black the physical resolution for an object at less than 150 parsec. And at 3 microns, we will have a resolution of a fraction of AU, and at 10 microns, few AU. Bon, and nobody is perfect, and we have limitation in sensitivity. Alors, I will here give few highlights on recent results. Okay. So here it's data obtained on the protoplanetary disk around an air-big stars with many rings. And MATISS shows evidence of an asymmetric structure varying with time in the inner disk, which could suggest the presence of a vortex. Imaging follow-up is accepted. Also, modeling this data, they find that inside the dust sublimation from micrograins, there is emission, and this could put in evidence the presence of refractory and larger grains in this this region very near the stars. Oops. Alors, second very interesting results, it's on a massive young object where you can see the L and N band image reconstructed, and which permit to resolve the inner dark disk gap. The N band image is more extended as expected than the L band, and inside the L band image, you can see the evidence. A little bit too low, the evidence of a compact object inside, which is probably mainly gaseous since it is localized in the dust sublimation region. Okay. Alors, this is the results obtained in the L-band observation towards the protoplanetary disk to study the inner 10U region and see if it is rich in carbon dust particles. And the data, so compared to the THEMIS dust model, show that we exclude the presence of the smallest nanograms, which are responsible of the 3.3 band in the immediate vicinity of the star, less than 1 IU. On the other hand, an usual extended emission up to 10 IU is observed, and not only in this object, and could be due to the larger carbon grains. Next Matisse observation at higher spectral resolution will permit to constrain the properties, spectral properties of these grains. Alors, on that topic, I will just want to unlike a project between OCA, IEM, ES, and ISMO focus on the carbon reservoir located in protoplanetary disk and try to make the link with the carbon gradient depletion observed in the solar system. As you can see donc on the left from a figure of Emmanuel, where you clearly see the depletion, which is mostly due to the fact that carbonaceous grains are more easily destroyed, and these processes of destruction may occur in the disk. So the idea in this project is to interpret the Matisse data with, in particular, the THEMIS dust model. And at the right, you can see a figure showing the absorption efficiency for nanodiamond, hydrogenated amorphous carbon, H-rich and H-poor grains. And you can see in green like the L and LM bonds and the N bonds. And in this project, the idea is really to combine the Matisse data to have access to the small scales between 1 and 15 IU and VLT, NACO, VISIR, which are accessible now, and very soon James Webb, which will give access to the large scales. Voilà, and there is ongoing work on the radial distribution of nanodiamonds and other and aromatic aliphatic bonds in a disk around erbium stars. Voilà, and in particular on this object, very famous HD 10546, we will obtain very soon Matisse data. And on this figure, you can see on the right, the black curve shows, in fact, the evidence of depletion of nanograms where we approach the star. This could be due to photo destruction processes and with the carbon content released in gas phase. But with Matisse observation, we will be able to constrain the dust content in the inner region. And even if we don't detect things, we will be able to put an upper limit on their abundance. Alors, I have not a lot of time, but I just want also to show other results. It's imaging of donc the carbon stars and Matisse. So this is soon the reference, and Matisse permits to locate the dust formation around these bright AGB stars. Also, Matisse provides some nice results on the powerful stellar winds. I will not develop that. And thermal imaging of the dust hiding the black hole in NGC 1068. Okay, this is just a graph showing the recrease time for the different VLT instrument with Matisse in green, and showing the importance of VLTI for the internal community. You have in different colors as a open and GTO program. Okay. activity for the next 2-3 years. So there is several, but here, so for PCME, I will mention that in particular, we will have really access to the L-band high spectral resolution mode, which was for the moment not really accessible. And progress will be made also on the telluric subtraction, which is one of the main problems of this when we analyze this data. Okay, so now I will talk about METIS, the mid-infrared ELT imager and spectrograph, third generation ELT instrument. So here you have the PI and consortium. Alors, the modes, I'm sorry for the for the slides. The modes are imaging in L-M bands and N bands with high contrast coronagraph, long slit spectroscopy, medium resolution. Here you have for the resolution, spectral resolution for the different bands. EFU spectroscopy in the L-M bands, not N bands. And there is also a new mode, EFU plus coronagraphy, which is very promising for the observation of exoplanet, atmosphere, and also to get an higher contrast between star and planet that will optimize detection. Alors, in terms of performance, we can summarize it like that. For the angular resolution is 5 times the VLT. So we will be able to obtain infrared image with the resolution as in K-band, as we obtain it with an instrument like SPHERE. The field of view will be very small, 10.5 arc-second in imaging and less than 1 arc-second for the EFU. Spectral resolution 2 times the carrier's instrument, and sensitivity about 20 times the VLT. And here also you can see the performance for the high contrast imaging. So clearly, METIS is very suitable for compact source or source with fine structures, rings, gap, knots with high contrast. It's clearly not done for donc extended flat source. Alors, actually, there is some discussion on the laser adaptive optics for faint targets. This will have an impact on the number of extragalactic sources, which is for the moment very limited. And one of the difficulty identified is the PSF reconstruction, since ELT will observe very few standard stars because of the high cost. Here you can see also the timeline. We approach the final design review end of 2020. Construction, test calibration planned for 2024-27, and we hope the first light at the end of 28. GTO preparation is currently ongoing, and so you have 75 nights for the consortium, which will be divided in large joint programs defined by the METIS science team. And in terms of data reduction, so the pipeline will be done by Astara, and high-level algorithm has to be defined. Alors here it's a slide showing the high complementarity with Webb. Webb will benefit from an unparalleled sensitivity, many faint targets. It will give information over the wide and all range 0.6 to 28 microns by using EFU, but it will give for most of the object only the line integrated flux, and METIS will provide the spectral and angular resolution needed to better characterize spatially and dynamically the emission from the small warm structures. And voilà, here you can see in terms of resolution and so spatial and spectral resolution and sensitivity in the imaging and spectroscopic mode, the different performance between Webb and METIS. And voilà, so basically spatial resolution 6 times better, spectral resolution 30 times better, but sensitivity lower, divided by 50 for imaging and by 2 for spectroscopy. So this is a comparison of physical resolution for different distance of the object for James Webb and ELT. So if you take an object at 150 parsec, James Webb at 10 microns will give a resolution of 60 AU, while ELT 10 AU. This is METIS modes and science case. So here I highlight the science case, very interesting for PCMI. Extreme, donc so circumstellar environments and star cluster for imaging, and for long slit spectroscopy, ice in comets and star forming region, physics of circumstellar and circumnuclear environments, solid state chemistry and mineralogy, and for the EFU spectroscopy, kinematics and chemistry of circumstellar environment, chemical study of the interstellar medium. And just on that, for the EFU spectroscopy, we will have two modes, one with full EFU field, less than 1 arc-second, and one with a mode with wide spectral coverage, but field of view divided by 10. So very small. Alors, here, takes time to charge. Overview of key area, science area of METIS. And here I highlight in yellow the field where there is strong French participation, mostly on this physics and chemistry linked to planets, and exoplanet detection and atmosphere composition. I have okay. Alors, among the main goals for PCMI, linked to the cycle of interstellar matter, star-planet formation, stellar feedbacks, and formation and evolution of galaxy. I list some of them. So clearly, there will be for PCMI a very strong interest in the study of the matter, and in particular the small dust and hot molecules in young pre-planetary systems in the innermost regions of the disk winds, to study the matter in rings, gaps, chemical composition of the planet forming region, heritage and evolution of grains, comparison with solar system, and also study of circumplanetary disk. There will be also an interest of study the envelope of evolved stars, to study in particular the dust formation, and spatially resolve and correlate the dust band with the local physical and dynamical condition, and identify the main mechanism. Also, on stellar feedback acting on the ISM, we will be able to evolve the hyperstructured, irradiated, and shocked interstellar medium. And in ISM spectroscopy, we'll be in particular able to study the diffuse interstellar bands variation in link with the kinematic gas tomography, which will permit to follow the evolution of large molecules nanodust from the most diffuse to dense region. And in the ISM, for the ISM in the external galaxy, we will have access to the structure, energetics, and dynamics of the Earth of galaxy with extreme conditions for the ISM, and the physics of star formation in clumps of high redshift galaxy. The high spatial and spectral resolution will allow determination not only of the star formation rate, but clearly the properties of the star forming region. Alors, here I give in the next slide, which will appear, a review of the powerful near-infrared and mid-infrared spectroscopic diagnostic probed by, which will be attainable with ELT, METIS, Harmony, IRIS, and James Webb, MIRI, NIRSPEC, the different colors at the right. And both very fastly, so we have all the bands from the dust and macromolecules. We have also fine structures, a lot of fine structure lines of ions and atoms, which will trace the temperature, electronic density, pressure gradient, and put constraints on the elemental abundance and metallicity, which is important for in particular extragalactic study. We'll have access to very interesting fluorescent line, oxygen, as nitrogen, which will are excellent tracer of the ionization front and the intensity and wavelength discrepancy of the UV field, and also recombination lines of hydrogen, helium, carbon, which will permit to study the C+ layer at high resolution and the physical condition in the neutral layer beyond the ionization front. You don't see well in blue là, but we will have also access to the pure rotational and vibrational lines of H2, collisionally and fluorescently excited, which will be really great thermometer for the warm gas, have access to the pressure gradient in the dissociation front, and learn more about the H2 formation process. Also, we will have access to rotational lines of CO excited by collisions, infrared pumping, and UV photons, and which will be great to probe the warm gas structure and kinematics. Also, we will have access to high excited rotational and vibration line of water and OH, which will probe hot gas chemistry, non-thermal process, radiative and chemical pumping. And Benoît Tabon will make a presentation in particular on that. And with Mary, we'll have also access to the vibrational lines of non-polar molecules, CH4, C2H2, HCN, which will permit a complete inventory of hydrocarbon species connecting with grain processing. So I not a lot of time, but so I will very fastly present you a few highlights on specific science case. So if I start, so METIS, I will bring 3 minutes. Okay, gaps between MATIS, it was too large topics. MATIS VLT and James Webb, probing the donc region between few AU to few 10 AU, and we will be able, too slow, to in particular direct imaging the gaps in protoplanetary disk and study the spatial distribution of small dust towards the gaps and see if they are coupled to the gas or not. Also, we'll be able to, with the long slit spectroscopy, to study the dust properties in the gaps. With the AFU mode, we will be able to study the gas phase spectroscopy, access, as you can show here, with the synthetic spectrum done by Benoît Tabon for a slab at 500 Kelvin, and also considering OH chemical popping. We will have access to the main molecule carrying carbon and oxygen, and make a possible assessment of the chemical composition of the warm disk, key ingredient for giant planet formation. Very important with CO lines, which will permit to make spectroastrometry at very high angular resolution, which is one of the key really to see where comes the emission, disk versus winds. And with James Webb, also a lot of lines from OH, water, and also C2H2, which can be which can trace the byproducts of UV photolysis of carbon grains. So this is an illustration of the kinematic imaging of gas in planet forming regions with the CO lines. But well, we end up that time to describe it, but you can have some literatures on that. We'll be able to detect the circumplanetary disk in thermal emission as well as warm CO gas. Here you see on the right, so this fantastic detection of a circumplanetary disk around the PDS 70. And this is simulation for the CO line, where you can see here the circumplanetary disk, and here run through the METIS simulator. We see that we still detect it. Okay, alors on the radiative stellar feedback, I will be quick, but so with ELT, we will have access to a very high angular view of the hyperstructured irradiated medium. so this hyperstructure irradiated medium in a photon-dominated region has been recently shown by ALMA observation, and very recently also by Keck observation, which will give access to a resolution of 0.1 arc second, so 30 AU, and where we can see that the atomic to molecular transition is very structured with a multitude of small dense PDRs and compact source that survive under extreme conditions. And ELT will increase by 10 the spatial resolution, so it will be fantastic, and permit to result of kind of overdense structure, such as high-density globules, collapsing protostar, and proplids detected with with Webb, and ALMA. So ELT will be perfect to study irradiated disk and understand the planet formation under these very strong conditions. Planetary nebula, so we'll be able to stop. Okay, so voila, and with the ISM spectroscopy, clearly we very nice spectroscope survey of the diffuse interstellar bands. Voilà, sorry.
Okay, so let's take one or two questions from Quentin. Quentin, are you on?
Yes. Yeah, it's just some basic questions about the capabilities of the ELT and METIS. First, the first one, I'm surprised that you talk about like few milliarc second spatial resolution, because, well, how do they solve the problem with seeing? Because, for instance, at the VLT, it's more like about 1 arc second.
But you...
And the adaptive optics, they plan to reach like few milliarc second.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah. My second question is, when you compare James Webb and METIS in your table, what is the observing time that is used to derive the sensitivity? Like in how long do you need to observe to reach, like, I don't remember, it was like few hundred of nano Janskis?
Alors, attends, I will up. So basically your question is on this?
The 22, I think.
20?
22.
22, okay, the comparison with James Webb.
With James Webb. Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
What is the observing time that is used in this case to reach, for instance, 10 to 20 nanojansky with James Webb?
Alors, I have not the exact number in mind, but you can, I mean, in the figure, there is some, I can provide you the documents and, okay. But it's quite, I mean, in general, it's not, 1,000 hours. I mean, it's in general, you consider 1 hour or something.
Okay.
Or a few minutes.
You can,
okay.
If you can find the answer and put it on the Google Docs, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
So there is
Pierre Guillard put some notes in the Zoom. Usually it is 10,000 seconds at 4 sigma.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. There is a question by Caroline. But just a general comment. It's easier if you're all trying to interact on the Google Doc than on both the chat and the Google Doc. Well, it makes the life of the chairman easier. Thank you. So, Caroline.
Yes, thank you. It was very interesting and highlighting to see what is feasible for the future. I was impressed in particular for the image with a very fine structure in the PDR. And I was wondering if one can expect that we will be observed such fine structures in more diffuse clouds. Like I'm guessing there is a sensitivity limit, but do you have an idea of how faint we will be able to go, or how diffuse we can expect to observe?
Okay. So for the diffuse medium, the thing is that here you really, I can expect that you can have this such small structure in the diffuse ISM. But for example, just that you know, if, for example, in this particular PDRs, so in this part of the field, so mapped with ALMA, we find a very lot of structure. But if you go to the left part, you find much less structure. So just to mention that this very structure medium in the irradiated region is observed in a very particular region with really strong UV radiation field and very high density. Then after, the field with the limitation is that the field of view you see it's 10 arc-seconds or less than 1 arc-second for the spectroscopy. So you have to know really where you will go and observe, and your medium has to be contrast to obtain some nice for some interesting results. So on this very such small scale, but after the sensitivity is quite high, so I think for some specific region maybe we will be able to obtain some things.
Okay, thank you very much. Did you put your slides on the drive? So
yes,
because you did lots of work to prepare this talk, and it's important that the PCMI community try to get more involved in VLTI and ELT. So we encourage you to have a look at it.